I still remember that morning like it was yesterday. The sun was barely rising, painting the sky with a soft orange glow. The house felt quiet, too quiet. I stood by the window holding my cup of tea, watching the light touch the old mango tree outside. The same tree under which my son used to play when he was little. His laughter once echoed through these walls. But that day there was only silence. It's strange how silence can be heavier than noise. It carries the weight of things unsaid, of love unspoken, of goodbyes that never had words. I used to think love was enough, that if you raised your child with care, taught him kindness and gave him everything you had, even the food off your plate, he would never forget you. But life has a way of humbling you, of teaching you that love doesn't always return the way you gave it. My son's name is Ian. I named him after the first ray of morning because he was that for me. My little light after years of waiting. My husband and I couldn't have children for a long time. When Ian was finally born, it felt like the world had given me a second chance. I remember the way he clung to my finger the first time I held him. Tiny, fragile, and yet so full of life. I promised him then that I would never let go. I didn't know that one day he would be the one to let go of me. He was a bright boy, gentle, quiet, always curious. He used to sit beside me while I cooked, asking questions about everything. "Mama, why does rice dance when it boils?" Or, "Mama, if I love you the most, who do you love the most?" I always smiled and said, "You, of course." Our home was small but filled with warmth. My husband, Salim, worked long hours as a teacher, and I stayed home, caring for Ian and managing everything. We didn't have much money, but we had peace. Family dinners, laughter, small joys, those were our treasures. But happiness, I learned, is delicate. It breaks quietly without warning. When Ian turned 16, my husband passed away suddenly. A heart attack. One moment he was laughing over dinner, the next he was gone. Just like that. The house that once echoed with voices fell into silence again. I held myself together for Ian. He was too young to lose a father, too fragile to understand what death really meant. I remember sitting with him on the veranda that night, the air still heavy from the funeral smoke. He leaned his head on my shoulder and whispered, "It's just us now, Mama." Those words became my strength. For years it was just us. We grew closer. I watched him become a man, responsible, caring, and determined. He got a scholarship, studied hard, and made me proud every single day. I used to pray every night, thanking God for giving me such a good son. When he got his first job, he bought me a new sari with his first salary. I cried that day, not because of the gift, but because I felt I had done something right. But slowly life began to change. It started the day he met Sarah, the woman who would become his wife. She was beautiful, confident, and from a well-off family. I liked her at first. She was polite, soft-spoken, and treated me with respect. Ian looked happier than I'd seen him in years, and that was enough for me. When they got married, I gave them everything I could. I sold some of my jewelry to help with the wedding expenses. I wanted my son's new life to begin beautifully. For the first few months, everything was fine. They lived with me, and I tried my best to give them space to not interfere. But I could sense something changing in the air. Sarah started speaking to me less. She began making small remarks, polite but sharp enough to sting. "Amy, maybe you shouldn't cook every day." "I'll order food sometimes," she said once, smiling. Or, "Ian likes his shirts ironed a certain way. Don't worry, I'll take care of it." It was small things at first, so small I told myself I was imagining it. But deep down I felt the distance growing. Ian, caught between us, didn't notice, or maybe he chose not to. He worked long hours, came home tired, and often spent his evenings on the phone with colleagues. The conversations between us became shorter, fewer. "Mama, I'll eat later." "Mama, I'm busy right now." "Mama, Sarah doesn't like when I stay up late in your room." It hurt, but I stayed quiet. I thought love would bring him back. Then one evening, I was sitting on the couch, sewing a small tear in his old shirt. Ian walked in, looking a bit hesitant. Sarah was standing behind him. "Mama," he began, avoiding my eyes. Sarah and I were thinking, maybe it's time we move out. Closer to my office. My hands froze. The needle slipped, pricking my finger. "Oh," I said softly, forcing a smile. "That's good. If it helps your work, you should." He nodded, relief washing over his face. "You understand, right? It's just easier." Of course I understood. That's what mothers do. We understand even when it breaks us. The day they left, I stood at the door waving goodbye. Sarah hugged me briefly. Ian smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "I'll call you every day, Mama." But days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and soon the phone stopped ringing altogether. The house that once echoed with laughter had gone silent again. The silence I had feared most returned. That was the beginning of the day my son stopped calling me Mom. The first few weeks after Ian moved out were the hardest. I would wake up and still set 3 cups on the table for breakfast, one for him, one for Sarah, and one for myself. Then I'd realize they weren't coming. The cups stayed empty, the tea turned cold. Every morning I would wait for his call. The phone would sit quietly on the table, the screen dark and still. Sometimes I'd even pick it up just to make sure it was working. Then I'd sigh and put it back down. First he called every weekend, then once every 2 weeks, then only when he needed something. "Mama, did you keep my old documents somewhere? Mama, can you send that recipe Sarah likes? Mama, I'll visit soon, just been busy." Soon even those calls stopped. I told myself he was just busy, that he would come when things settled. But deep down I knew something had changed. The tone in his voice wasn't the same. The warmth that used to be there, the easy laughter, the small "love you, Mama" before hanging up, it had all faded into formality. When I did get a chance to talk to him, it was always quick, always distracted. "How are you, Ian?" "Good, Mama. Just tired. Work's been crazy." "Are you eating properly?" "Yes, Mama." "Come home this weekend?" "Let's see, Mama." "I'll try. I'll try." 2 words that began to sound like goodbye. The neighbors started asking about him. "We haven't seen Ian in a while," they'd say. I'd smile and reply, "He's doing well, just busy." My voice would sound cheerful, but my heart would ache every time I said it. I began spending more time in his old room. It still smelled faintly of him, a mix of books, cologne, and the warmth of old memories. His childhood trophies lined the shelf, his photographs still smiled from the walls. I would dust them gently, as if touching them could somehow bring him closer. One evening I decided to call him. My hands trembled slightly as I dialed the number. It rang several times before he picked up. "Hello." His voice sounded tired. "Ian, it's me." "Mama, I was just about to call you," he said, a line I'd heard before. "I just wanted to hear your voice," I said softly. "Of course, Mama. I'm fine. How are you?" "I'm okay," I replied, though I wasn't. "Do you and Sarah plan to visit soon?" There was a pause. "Maybe next month, Mama. Sarah's been busy." "Oh, tell her I miss her cooking." "I will." There was silence again, the kind that feels like a wall between 2 people who used to share everything. Before hanging up, I said, "Take care of yourself, Beta." He replied quietly, "You too, Mrs. Khan." I froze. Did I hear that right? Mrs. Khan? My own son, the boy who once couldn't sleep without holding my hand, had called me by my surname, like a stranger. He realized it too, maybe because there was an awkward silence after that. "Sorry, Mama," he muttered quickly. Slip of the tongue. But the damage was done. I sat there for a long time, staring at the phone. My heart felt heavy, like a piece of me had fallen away. That was the night I cried for the first time since my husband died. Days passed. I tried to distract myself with chores, neighbors, prayers, anything to fill the emptiness. I started volunteering at a local school to teach children. It helped a little. Their laughter filled the gaps Ian's silence had left behind. But no matter how busy I kept myself, evenings were always the hardest. That's when the loneliness would return, soft but sharp, like a whisper in the dark. Then one afternoon the doorbell rang. My heart leapt. I rushed to open it, hoping it was Ian, but it was the postman. He handed me a letter, an official-looking envelope. My heart sank when I saw the sender's name. It was from Ian. Inside there was a typed letter and a small key. The letter said, "Dear Mama, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to let you know that Sarah and I have decided to buy a new house. It's quite far from your area, so visiting often might be difficult. I've arranged for someone to check on you every few weeks just to make sure you're okay. Please don't worry about anything. The key is for the new storeroom. It has some of my old things. You can use it however you like. Take care. Ian." There was no love, Ian. No, your son. Just his name, cold, distant, unfamiliar. I sat there staring at that letter until the words blurred. My eyes filled with tears. He had written to me as if I were a tenant, not his mother. That night I couldn't sleep. I went to the small prayer rug near my bed and sat down. "Ya Allah," I whispered. Where did I go wrong? I raised him with love, taught him. A few weeks passed after that painful visit. The days felt longer now, stretched thin by silence and waiting. I tried to fill my time with chores, reading, and the laughter of neighborhood children, but nothing could quiet the ache that lived in my chest. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in soft orange hues, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea. The world outside looked peaceful, too peaceful for the storm I felt within. That's when my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. For a moment, I thought it might be one of those wrong numbers I often got. But something in my heart whispered, "Answer it." "Hello," I said softly. A young voice replied, hesitant and trembling. "Is this Mrs. Khan?" "Yes, it is." "Ma'am, I'm calling from City Hospital. We have someone named Ian Khan here. There's been an accident." The world stopped. My hand went cold. The cup slipped from my fingers and shattered on the floor. I could barely hear the rest of what the nurse said. The words accident, serious, and ICU echoed in my mind like broken glass. I grabbed my shawl and rushed out, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. The ride to the hospital felt endless. Every red light, every turn, it all blurred into panic. When I reached the hospital, the smell of antiseptic filled the air, sharp, cold, merciless. I hurried to the reception desk. "Ian Khan," I said breathlessly. "My son. Where is he?" The nurse pointed toward the emergency wing. "Second floor, room 204. He's stable but still unconscious." Stable, unconscious. Two words that somehow didn't belong together. I pushed open the door quietly. The sight broke me. My son, my Ian, lay there pale and still with tubes and wires around him. His hand, once so warm and full of life, was cold when I held it. For a moment I just stood there, watching him breathe, tears streaming down my face. Memories flooded back, his first day of school, the night he got his first job, the way he used to call me mommy when he was scared. How could time steal all that so easily? Sarah was sitting in the corner, her face buried in her hands. She looked up when she heard me and froze. "Oh, Amy," she whispered. "You came." I nodded, too numb to speak. She looked guilty, her eyes red from crying. It was a car accident. He was driving home late from work. The doctors say he'll be fine, but it could have been much worse. I nodded again, sitting beside my son, stroking his hair like I used to when he was little. "Sure, you'll be okay, Beta," I whispered. "Mama's here." Hours passed. The machines beeped steadily, marking every breath he took. I stayed by his side, praying silently. For the first time in a long time, I didn't care about what had come between us. I just wanted him to live. At dawn, I dozed off in the chair beside his bed. When I opened my eyes, Ian was looking at me. His lips trembled. "Mama." That one word, simple, soft, filled with years of distance, broke me completely. I couldn't hold back anymore. I took his hand, kissed it, and cried, "I'm here, my son. I'm here." He looked weak, but his eyes, oh, his eyes had that familiar warmth again. "You didn't have to come, Mama," he whispered. "How could I not?" I replied, "You're my son. No matter what happens, that will never change." He blinked, tears forming at the corners of his eyes. "I thought you'd hate me," he said quietly. I shook my head. "Hate you? A mother's heart doesn't forget, Ian. It only waits." Sarah turned away, wiping her face. For the first time, she looked small, not proud or distant, just human. "Amy, I'm so sorry," she murmured. "I should have called you sooner. I didn't realize how much he missed you until it was too late." I didn't say anything. Sometimes silence speaks more than words ever can. The days that followed were slow and fragile. Ian recovered little by little, and I visited every day. We didn't talk much at first, just quiet company, shared tea, soft smiles. But there was a peace in that silence, a healing that words couldn't express. One evening, when the nurses had left, Ian looked at me. His voice was hoarse but steady. "Mama, do you remember the night you told me that family isn't built on pride but love?" I smiled faintly. "I remember, Beta. I forgot that lesson," he said. "I let someone else's words build a wall between us. I let my own comfort blind me to your love. And I'm sorry. For every day I didn't call, for every time I made you wait." I reached for his hand. "You were finding your way, my son. We all lose sight sometimes. What matters is that you found your way back." He smiled weakly. "I don't deserve you. You're my child," I said softly. "You don't have to earn a mother's love." That night, as I walked home under the quiet streetlights, I felt something inside me shift. The pain was still there, but it was softer now, like a wound beginning to heal. It took losing him for a moment to realize that I'd never truly lost him at all. Somewhere deep inside, he was always my boy, and I was always his mother. That was the turning point, not just for him, but for me. Because I understood then that love isn't measured by distance or silence. It's measured by how quickly a heart forgives. And that's what I did. I forgave him and myself. Months passed after Ian's accident. Months filled with slow healing, both of his body and our bond. The hospital visits turned into home visits, then into shared meals, and eventually laughter that didn't feel forced anymore. For the first time in years, my house was alive again. The quiet corners echoed with small sounds, the clinking of cups, Sarah's laughter from the kitchen, Ian's voice calling out, "Mama, where's my shirt?" It felt like time had turned back, even if just a little. Sarah changed too. Maybe the accident had shaken something in her heart. She began spending more time with me, helping in the kitchen, asking about old recipes, even sitting beside me during evening prayers. One day, she placed her hand gently over mine and said, "Amy, I never realized how much he missed you. I should have seen it sooner." I smiled. We all learn when Allah decides it's time. Ian, still weak but recovering, started walking with me in the garden each morning. He'd hold my hand just like when he was a boy and tell me about work, about life, about everything he used to keep hidden. One morning, he said quietly, "Mama, I saw everything clearly that night in the hospital. I saw how easily I could have lost you." Without even saying sorry properly, I looked at him, the sunlight touching his face, and replied, "You don't owe me an apology, Beta. You came back. That's enough." He shook his head. "It's not enough. I forgot what matters. I thought growing up meant moving away, but it really means coming closer, doesn't it?" I smiled, tears forming in my eyes. "Yes, my son. Growing up doesn't mean leaving love behind. It means understanding its worth." Time began to heal what pride had broken. On Eid that year, Ian and Sarah hosted the family dinner, but at my home. The table was full again. Laughter, stories, and the scent of biryani filled the air. When the evening ended, Ian hugged me tightly and whispered, "I love you, Mama." It was such a simple phrase, but it carried all the apologies, all the memories, all the love that had been waiting to return. From that day on, he called every morning before work. Sometimes it was just, "Mama, did you have breakfast?" Or "Pray for me today." Small things, but they meant everything. The house that once felt like a museum of old memories became a home again. Not because it was full of people, but because it was full of warmth. One evening, as I sat watching the sunset from the porch, Ian came out and handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a frame, a photo of us from his childhood, my arm around him, both of us laughing. Below it, he had written in his handwriting, "To the woman who never stopped waiting. To the mother who taught me what love really is." My heart swelled with peace. I realized then that love doesn't fade. It just waits for the right moment to be remembered. And that night, for the first time in a very long time, I whispered to myself before sleeping, "He's home again." I held it close, feeling a warmth that had been missing for years. In that moment, I realized that love, quiet, patient, unshakable love, had the power to heal even the deepest wounds. That night, as I tucked myself into bed, I reflected on everything that had happened. The loneliness, the silence, the distance. All of it had been a test of patience and faith. I understood now that a mother's love doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't measure itself by calls, visits, or words. It simply endures. Ian's forgetfulness, though painful, had shown me how fragile life is, how easily we take each other for granted. And his return, his small gestures of care, reminded me that reconciliation is possible when hearts remain open. I whispered a silent prayer of gratitude for the chance to rebuild, to forgive, and to be forgiven. I knew there would still be moments of imperfection, misunderstandings, and distance, but they would never overshadow the bond we shared. As I drifted to sleep, I felt a profound sense of peace. My son had come home, not just to the house, but to my heart. And I had learned a gentle truth. Love, when nurtured patiently, always finds its way back. In the quiet of that night, I smiled and thought, no matter the years lost, no matter the silence, love always remembers and a mother always waits.